What is up, boys and girls? It's your pal right here, the one and only Black Avenger, aka the Black House Road Lee Sanders, and you are checking out another album review edition of the RCWR show. This week, we're talking about the multi-time champion, entertainer, podcast host, vocalist, has his own rock band. Did we mention he's an author? This man can do pretty much everything, even hosts a TV show. I'm talking about WWE superstar Chris Jericho and his band Fozzy. They were hard at work earlier this year, coming up with the what I think is definitely a very solid follow-up to 2012's Sin and Bones. Yeah, I'm talking about Fozzy's new album, Do You Want to Start a War? And I have been looking very forward to reviewing this. I had listened to it off and on throughout the day. I definitely listened to the entire album, listened to it a couple of times, and it's definitely an honor to be able to kick back and talk about this album. Now, look, I went out of my way as early as 12 a.m. Tuesday morning to order the album and all of that via iTunes, but I have found out about this really cool deal that's going on exclusively with Best Buy, where if you buy the limited edition album here, you get a Fozzy bandana, and on top of that, if you take a photograph of yourself or if you have your receipt proving that you did buy the album, apparently Fozzy will give you a follow on Twitter. All you got to do is just pretty much tweet them the photo of you with the bandana or a receipt. Now, I'm sure if you have the album in your hand, they'll definitely let that slide as well. So that's something cool for you guys to keep in mind. Now, for those of you that may be a little bit curious about what's going on inside the jewel case and all that itself, I'll definitely get to it in just a little bit. But for now, just kick on back and just enjoy the review for this album. As I mentioned earlier, this is the sixth studio album that Fozzy has done. Once again, we have Rich Ward, who has produced this album. Everybody is pretty much back from the last album. I mean, you talk about the consistency that's going on right here. Now, look, let's be for real. When it comes to Chris Jericho, Rich Ward, Frank Fonstier, and Paul DeLeo, or that matter of fact, let's just take Paul out for just a little bit. Let's just home in on Chris, Paul. No, I already said take Paul out the equation. No, you want to focus on Chris, Rich, and Frank is what I was trying to say, folks. They've been added together for a good amount of albums now, and it just seems like with each album, they just continue to gel more and more. The creative juices. I mean, you can just really hear it all just come full circle with these guys. Now, with the addition of Bill Gray on guitar and the addition of Paul DeLeo on bass, this pretty much makes the second Fozzy album with this same lineup, because as you all know that definitely follow Fozzy, there's definitely been a little bit of a change with the lineup over the years, over X amount of albums that has come out from them. But you know, I know there's probably going to be a lot of you guys that picked up the Sin and Bones album, and you're probably saying to yourselves, man, Lee, off the break, you got to tell me, does this album, Do You Want to Rock, kick the hell out of Sin and Bones? Is it better than Sin and Bones? And honestly, I got to jump out there and I got to be real with you all. Nutshell, no, I don't believe it blows the hell out of Sin and Bones, but I will say that overall, this is a really good album that you can find yourself grooving behind, I must admit. Now, I actually had took the liberty while I was kicking back at work, as my job allows me to kick on back and listen to some music and all that while I'm collecting tons of data research and all that. Those of you that follow our show like that, you know exactly the type of work that I do. So what I ended up doing was I was using my Samsung and I was actually just making mental notes of each song. Now, we're not going to go 5 minutes every single track talking about this entire album like that. I'm just going to give you some quick thoughts about each track and just overall the standout tracks that you should really check out to hear for yourself before deciding if this is an album that you want to buy. So on that note, I'm just going to pull up my notes right here, and here we go. All right, so The album first kicks off with the lead single itself, Do You Want to Start a War? And off the break, one of the main things that I noticed was Rich Ward's guitar work on this one. I mean, he is just simply oozing on this track. And there's actually a lot of tracks where you can find him to do some really, really good lead. I got to give props to Billy. He does a pretty good job with the rhythm section and all that, but I was really more impressed with Rich. It just really kind of seemed like this time around, Rich wanted to just really lay his mark down on this album. And you know what, man? I'm all fine for it. Because me personally, I love the guitar. I'm a big fan of the guitar. I always said to myself that if I ever got a band together, I would either do the guitar or I would do vocals. That's just me personally. I used to like doing the drums too, but I've always wanted to do the vocals or the guitar. But the opening to that, I mean, it just really it brings you in. It pretty much just sets up the tone of what you can expect throughout the course of this album, which is it's going to be a little bit dark, it's going to feel a little bit poppy, it's going to come off slightly murky a little bit, but all mixed in with surprisingly, and I dare say, a little bit of happiness, believe it or not, all mixed in on this one track. Really had loved the way that they had opened up with this one. Bad Tattoo, and by the way, as far as the rating scale for each track, I'm going to be giving it a 1 out of 5. So basically, I'm going to choose a number between 1 to 5, 1 being the least favorite, 5 being the absolute favorite, which surprisingly, there actually was not one track that I found myself giving a 5 stars to. The maximum was 4 stars. Keep that in mind as we continue to talk about each track. Bad Tattoo, that is a really great song. I felt I gave that one a 3 out of 5. Lights Go Out. This one was surprisingly interesting. This one, you'll find yourself being in a position where this song is going to grow on you. It's going to take a couple of tries, because when I first listened to it, I found myself kind of going, no, this song kind of, I don't know. And then when I came back to it again as I was listening to the album in its entirety, because that's just me. I don't know how you guys operate. I actually like to listen to a new album in its entirety a couple of times so I can really get a good feel and appreciation for each track. And I actually ended up the second, third, fourth time, I ended up starting to come around to it. Lights Go Out, like I said, has a interesting little slight techno vibe to it. You kind of hear a little bit of synthesizers going on, but again, I gotta stress techno vibe that it has to it. Well, mixed in with the rock, but still pretty good. Died With You. Oh, and once again, going back to Lights Go Out, once again, we got to give it up to Rich. He was pretty much all over the place on the guitar on that one. Died With You. This one, kind of a nice slow tempo to it. You know, Chris Jericho kind of comes in, kind of almost serenading, if you will. Decent track. I give that one a 3 out of 5. So let's recap so far for those of you that might need it. So far, Do You Want to Start a War? I gave that a 3 out of 5. Bad Tattoo, that's a 3 out of 5. Lights Go Out, that's a 3 out of 5. Died With You, that is a 3 out of 5. The weakest track that I personally had came across for this album was Tonight. Lyrically, it just seemed kind of, what's the right word I want to use here? It just seemed like hardly that much of an effort was made into the lyrics. It just sounds so, I don't want to say cheesy. That's the last thing I want to say, because I'm trying to choose the right words carefully. But if that's the route that I kind of have to go, then I guess I'll kind of go that route. It did come off a bit cheesy. It's definitely a pop song, let me tell you that. And for those of you that are going to be like, oh, pop song, well, let's be for real. Chris Jericho, he's always kind of flirted with the whole rock, metal, pop rock. So this is definitely up his alley. But for me, as long as I've been checking out Fozzy, and I have all their albums, even their live stuff, their unreleased instrumental album, I got all the Fozzy stuff. For me, I just really found, by Fozzy standards, this song was just a little bit
too popish. I kind of had got the vibe that maybe I was listening to the Hanson brothers at some point or whatever. It just felt just a little bit that kind of poppy. This definitely was one that I just could not find myself growing to liking. To each its own. I may be saying that, and some of you are hearing that, and you're listening to this album, or you've already listened to it. You may totally disagree with me on this, but hey, man, to each its own. It's okay to disagree. Don't hate me just because I don't like a particular song, okay? We all have different tastes, all right? Now, most standout tracks, pretty much after tonight, Brides of Fire. Jericho on this one really stands out. For me, Brides of Fire is like his Sandpaper. For those of you that have the Sin and Bones album, and those of you are like, man, Jericho, it just seemed like with that one song and just the way he was vocally on that track, it just seemed like everything just finally came full circle. Like, ultimately, this is what Fozzy is all about. And for me, that's the same type of vibe that I had picked up with Brides of Fire. I mean, Jericho, his range on this particular track vocally, I mean, he was hitting high notes that, when you go back to Sandpaper and you're like, wow, I didn't know he was capable of that. He really surprised me with the way he was able to handle himself on high notes for this song. Love it to death. Also, we had Rich. He comes in there. Great guitar work. Great backup vocals as well. Just the combination of Chris and Rich, when they're both singing together, the same verse and all that, it's perfect harmony, just a little bit of shades of the late Jerry Cantrell, Lane Staley is what I was trying to say. Forgive me, folks. Long day. Maybe this is too tight around my head. There's a reason why I'm wearing this, too. I'll tell you in a little bit. But it kind of reminded me of the combination of the late Lane Staley and Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains, just the way they would be able to just bounce off of one another, vocal wise and harmony and all of that. They did a really good job on this track. Again, 4 out of 5 stars for that. That is the most standout track. I'm kind of surprised that Fozzy didn't actually kick things off with this track, to really tease the fans and get them reeled in. I'm hoping that a video for this is forthcoming, because I think visually it would just be really pretty fucking stunning, okay? Next track, One Craze Anarchist. I think it's Anarchist. It's not Antichrist. I know that much for certain. It definitely does not say that. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. This was another one where, once again, Rich, Chris, they're doing their thing, vocal, harmony-wise, pitch perfect. Rich coming in again on the lead guitar. It just really comes off, if you're a big fan of the guitar work, it just really comes off that Rich was picking his sweet spots very well throughout this album. A lot of good solos for him. Unstoppable. This was actually, this was actually the second track that I really did not find myself enjoying a lot. Once again, lyrically, it just felt kind of. And look, when I say lyrically, some of you are probably like, well, what's the songs, kind of about? Well, Unstoppable, it was just pretty much one of those type of songs as far as the lyrics goes. You can't break me, you can't stop me, you can't deny me, I'm unstoppable. It was basically something to that effect, all right? And for me, it just seemed a little too, I hate to say cheesy, but, I could respect the fact that it was kind of popish, but felt a little cheesy at the same time. Once again, for me, Fozzy standards wise, it just seemed like that they could have went without this particular song. Scarecrow, so 3 out of 5. That one was pretty solid. No Good Way, it's another one pretty awesome. SOS and Witchery, those 2 tracks to close out the album was definitely on point, especially Witchery. That one, I mean, once again, Chris, Rich doing their thing on the vocals, Rich doing his thing with the lead guitar. I mean, overall, what I can say about this album, scale of 1 to 10, I've got to give this album a respected 7, maybe a 7.5. I'm going to be firm, though. I'm going to go on ahead and jump out there, and I'm going to say a 7.5. out of 10. I mean, for me, I definitely could have went without two of the tracks that I had mentioned, which was Tonight and Unstoppable. I could have went without those. Maybe they could have let those be some unreleased tracks that they could have put out somewhere later down the road, maybe for like rarities, B-sides, box set, or something to that effect. But I definitely could have done without it. But the tone of the album, just overall, there really wasn't that many tracks that will have you jump out there and be like, oh my God, overall, this is a fantastic freaking album. The album has those really good points that I have mentioned. And then there's those other points where the album just seems to be kind of going in a steady line of average. You know what I'm saying? Only on key tracks does it basically go, okay, that was really freaking good. And then you go through like about, three tracks where it's just kind of average, and then it comes back up to a really good track that stands out. Then it kind of goes back down. So you kind of got like a seesaw high, not low, just a seesaw high and then midpoint type of range. But it just kind of felt like overall this album almost had that potential of just really kind of going in that all balls out in your face like they did with the Sin and Bones album. But regardless of that, I would definitely have to say that this album, I will definitely recommend it. I highly would encourage you guys to pick it up. For you hardcore Fozzy fans, you'll definitely appreciate this album. If you're like me and you're like, man, Sin and Bones, how can you top that? Or how can you toss Chasing the Grail? They did a good job. I must admit, I have really been appreciating the evolution of Fozzy more and more, and Chris Jericho. I mean, at first, Fozzy just seemed like a very comical band, especially when you think about the way originally they were set up and how they had all these altered egos going on at first and all that. They have just come such a long way musically, definitely creatively. And, they're just at that point right now. We should know that they have broken like the top 100 on, I believe, Amazon, definitely on iTunes. So, I mean, definitely a big congrats goes out to them. They are just really picking up great steam and momentum from where they left off with their last album and all that. And I definitely recommend that you guys go ahead and pick it up. Now, for those of you that have not listened to this album yet, and you're definitely a little bit on the fence, wherever music is sold online, definitely iTunes, I would definitely recommend you jump out there and you check out the following key tracks to really try to make up your mind if it's an album that you want to check out overall, or if maybe you just want to grab these songs that I mentioned. Once again, Brides of Fire, definitely pick that up. Witchery, definitely grab that. One Craze, Anarchist, pick that one up. I'm trying to see if I can maybe recommend one more to you guys that could get an honorable mention that I kind of enjoyed. It's a toss-up between Bad Tattoo and Scarecrow. If you want, you can check both of those out as well. But if you're able to preview the whole album before you buy, hey man, take advantage of that. But that's where I stand for that. Once again, I'm giving this album a 7.5 out of 10. Now, with regards to how the album itself looks, I can definitely show you guys real quick. Fresh out the shrink wrap here too. All right. So, and again, this is the limited edition. It's a limited edition because only at Best Buy are you able to get the limited edition. And when you get the limited edition, you get yourself a Fozzy bandana, which is why I have this. So, long time subscribers, viewers, now you know why I am wearing this. And now that I've explained why I'm wearing this, I can actually take it off now. Okay, and let my head breathe because it's actually pretty hot over here. All right, so that's how it looks for you guys. All right, show you guys the back of it. You can't really see too much. It's actually kind of bright there, but you get an idea. And as far as how it looks inside, I can definitely show you guys. Looks like a triple gatefold cover here. See if we can open up this other side here. All right, so that looks pretty good. All right. Is my mic on? Yeah, my mic is on. Just making sure my mic is on, guys. Sometimes I forget. All right. And then here's something that's pretty cool. You get to see all of the band members. Let me just let you zoom in on that. So I mean, that's pretty freaking cool. I gotta admit, this is like the first album that I've purchased from a store in a couple of years. The last time I had actually bought an album from the store, I think it might have had something to do with a Robert Plant album. That's as far as back as I'm going to say with regards to that, and that's been like a couple of years now. This is cool. You get a nice little gatefold, little small booklet. You got the lyrics so you can sing along to it, so that's pretty freaking cool. Oh yeah, this go round, Chris Jericho found himself doing a little bit more work on this album. On top of doing lead vocals, he also had played the piano, so that would kind of explain at one point when we hear the synthesizers and the nice slow monotone that was going on some of the songs. Nice flow that was going on there. But yeah, man, definitely check out this album when you guys get a chance. I don't think if you're really a Chris Jericho fan and you're familiar with Fozzy and all that, I don't really think you guys are going to be that disappointed with this album. Hardcore Fozzy fans, you may not find anything wrong with this album, but definitely I would encourage you to go ahead and grab it. It's definitely worth a grab, I will admit that. Hey, is there an album that you would like for me to check out? Well, post those comments down below or send me an email at Infinity One Productions. All the links are down here in the episode description below, and let me know, and I'll definitely take it into some great consideration. Check it out when I am able to get a chance. All right, you can follow us on Twitter at the RCWR Show, Facebook at Infinity One Productions. That's Infinity with an E. Put the actual one in there. You have to spell it out. Don't put the actual number one in there. Spell out one. Infinity One Productions on Facebook. And that is going to do it. Hey, is it your first time checking us out? I would love to have you subscribe to us so that you never miss out on all the great content that we do for you here on a weekly basis, whether it's doing great album reviews like what we just did here for you all right now, or maybe breaking some news, or kicking back and doing some really fun and insightful interviews. We do a little bit of something for everybody, so make sure you show that love, and definitely do hit that subscribe button. We'll definitely make sure that it's clickable for you above so you can easily subscribe quicker. All right, boys and girls, that's going to do it. If you enjoyed this, please go out of your way to give this a thumbs up. You can also share this a number of ways by retweeting it, Facebooking it, Google Plusing it. It's one of the many ways that you can spread the good word about our content. Until next go round, Black Avenger, aka the Black Azrael Lee Sanders, wishing all of you all to be safe and be kind to one another. I'll see you next go round. Everybody, take care.